Hey everybody, Scoutcrafter here again. TGIF, it's Friday. Now this week either was one of the fastest weeks that went by for you or one of the slowest. Because if you were trapped inside with the family, it might have been a very slow week. But either way, the week is over. You made it through. You made it. So let's celebrate a little bit. We got a good episode today, hopefully. A good friend of the show for a long time, Christina from San Diego. You might remember she sent in a tap and dice set a while ago, and she has two young
Andrew,
boys,
who is 14 years old, and Marcus, who is 11 years old.
and they have a neighbor named by the name of Cliff, who has been their mentor for a long time, and they're very close to him. He has a farm and a barn, and they went in there and they picked out a couple of tools that he said they can have, and they thought it would be a great challenge for the channel. And it is a challenge, and let's take a look at these tools and see what we're going to do, and hopefully it'll be a lot of fun. Now, Andrew and Marcus have been watching the channel for over a year. They enjoy tool restorations, they enjoy tools, they like all that kind of stuff, but when they found these two, I mean, these are really what you would call a challenge. You know, first of all, they're both obviously bent. They need some handles. This one here is missing the nut that was on here, and also they put some kind of, I guess, a copper pipe on there as kind of a handle. The top's not too bad, but you know, it's always a pain with these, the rivets, because once you take these, you know, there's no way to really save the rivets, so you got to make up a new rivet system. Same thing with here. These are drive rivets over here that hold the springs 1 and 2. That's the only real problem with these, but as you can see, they require a good amount of work, and let's get to it. Let's start now. Because they're two separate wrenches, it's important to keep the parts separate, because you could see, like, you know, there might be slight variances in the size or whatever, and you don't want to switch parts around, so you got to have a way to keep them separated. Let's get started. These things are in some really rough shape, so let's get started, see what we can do with them. I'll keep all the parts for each individual wrench in here, and then we'll work that way. Now, using a chisel to try and raise this up a little bit, the drive rivet, what you do is you take your vice grip now, you get a good purchase onto that drive rivet, and you wiggle it back and forth, and here's where you got to really get a good one. It's going to mangle up the rivet. They're meant to go in once, that's it. But get a good grip on here and work it back and forth once you have a good, there we go, and work it back and forth, and you can see it's loosening up, you see? And like I said, there's nothing you could do. You're going to mangle this rivet up, but to get it out, wiggle it back and forth. You see it's wiggling back and forth, and eventually this will come out. You just got to keep pulling it, and eventually it'll come out. And that's what it is. It's just a steel pin that gets pressed in there, and there's two. You can see there's two springs here. They doubled it up because they want a little bit stronger, so you got to remember this when you're taking it off. Now, sometimes when you're trying to chisel off that rivet, you know, Murphy's Law, sometimes it'll snap in place like it did there. So we're going to just drill that out right now. And you want to drill down the middle, because we're going to try and figure out what we're going to do here. I didn't start on this rivet. These are a little different than the other rivets, but I'm going to drill that out, and we're here in a drill press. Now, you always hear me raving about these center drills and why you need to have these in your shop. You can get a set of like 5 of these in all different sizes, from small to large, for like $15 on Amazon. Go get these if you don't have them. And now you see what we did? We just center drilled that little pin there. Now I'll go up to a larger drill bit, and that really helps get it, because if you try and put that drill bit right off the top, it's going to wander. So we'll drill this out now, 1, 2, 3. Now, that could have been a real pain in the neck, but you could see by using that center drill, we got in there and pulled that pin right out. It's ready for a new rivet. Here we are at our post wire brush evaluation, and now you can see why I have to keep them separated. First of all, I'm notorious for mixing up parts if I'm working on two things. I don't know what it is. It's a mental block. So I have to keep things separate, but especially in wrenches like this, because these are so much alike, but they're two different brands. Now, I'll show you over here. This one on the left here is a Stilson wrench, and you can see it here. You see that? It's a Stilson wrench made in the USA, right? Now we'll look at this one over here, and this one here, you could see here, the name on here, it says J.R. Danielson Company. So you could see that they're, you know, two different makes, but look at this here. The castings look almost identical in size, you know, so something makes me, you know, without looking at the history right away, something tells me that Danielson bought out Stilson or whatever. But one thing that is different, if you look here, is on the jaws. You can see this one here is a little bit more ornate in their stamping. You can see here it has a recessed area here, guaranteed 10-inch. And this one here on the Danielson is just flat steel. So less ornate, but so that's something, you know, it's very interesting. Now, here we have, and now the reason you do the post wire brush is you inspect for any cracks, any damage. You want to see what you have to do. You can see here this, no matter what, I wouldn't want to save this because it looks kind of shoddy. And if you're going to put the wrench back together, you know, you want to make it look good. So, and then we'll have to take care of some damages here, like over here. You can see this was used as a kind of a wrench, so we're going to have to straighten that out a little bit. And obviously the backs here, you can see both of them, you know, they need a little work. And and then of course we got to straighten these out on the dake. So we got a lot of work. Now we're going to work on one piece at a time, but you see here, remember we were saying this is a little bit mushed over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to apply a little bit of heat on here, just a little bit, nothing too crazy. And then we're going to bang it down and try and flatten that out. And then we'll hit it with the sander. But right now we'll do it that way. Okay, now this is just with the hammer. You could see that we pretty much got that a little bit flattened out, you know, so now it's not mushed over. Now we can take it with the belt sander and just get a lot of these pitting marks off. Okay, we're done for tonight. Believe it or not, what you're looking at, it's a little over 6 hours of work. And I know it don't, you know, when you look at a video, a 15-minute video, you say, well, you know, and the only reason I mention that time is because if any of you try and get into this hobby and you got a half an hour into a tool and go, man, I don't know what's going on, it's taking too long. It's a timely process, but it doesn't mean that you're doing anything wrong. It takes time. Every step you do. So we straightened it out. We also have to make this nut for tomorrow. I did this one up nice, so we'll make one of these. And luckily the threads are 5/16 by 24, which is a very common thread here. And then we got these all nice. And now the only thing I'm going to do before I go to sleep is I'm going to clean out the inside of these and shellac the insides so that they don't rust. And then I'll hit the sack, and tomorrow we'll come back and hopefully get working on this wrench. Okay, it's day 2. Now today we got to make the pins, the handles, we got to reassemble, and let's get to it. Now you know my favorite part. Remember what these wrenches look like before we started. And we are calling this project done. I have to tell you, this has to be the hardest project I've done ever. Because I gave myself a 2-day, you know, I have a 3 days a week posting, and I had 2 days to do this, and it was tough getting it done. But as you can see, here they are. This one here, this is a Stilson wrench, and you can see there we did the red. Walnut handle. Made this cap here for it because it had no cap. I used screws and threaded in here instead of trying to use rivets. And the same thing here, you know how we do that. This looks real nice instead of, that's the first thing you see when you look at a wrench, but you can see everything operates nice, very, very smooth. You know, it was non-operating before, but came out real nice. The top and the back and all the places that were dented and bashed in. So, and this one here, a little bit different, same thing. You know, these wooden handles, this is J.L. Danielson, this wrench, and this one's Stilson. The J.L. Danielson was founded in 1903, and what happened was he made a lot of tools and wrenches and all kinds, but he was known for making, and he made what's called the Stilson pattern, which is this pattern. But come around 1930 or so, they dropped out. As soon as they came out with all steel wrench, you know, the type with the steel handle, anything with wooden steel, was, you couldn't even give them away because, you know, they always bent, and, you know, they were always a problem. So, but unusual, because you don't see too many of them around that are in decent shape. Usually they're all bent up or banged up or something. But now these will be nice, and I'm sure the boys will really get a kick out of them. And I made these two out of an old pipe here. You know, you can see it's open on top, but that's the best way I could do it because I don't have any of those ferrules. But interesting project. I tell you the truth, I think it's going to be a very, very, very long time before I do another pipe wrench. So in closing, Andrew and Marcus, I hope you enjoy the wrenches, and you picked out some doozies, I'll tell you. Next time, not so much of a challenge. And Christina, thanks so much for all your support all the time. And I hope you have a nice weekend. Thanks so much for tuning in. Take care now. Bye-bye.